Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we are strapping ourselves in for a deep dive into the 10X rule. And this is not about, making small marginal improvements.
Not at all.
It's about multiplying your efforts and your goals by a factor of 10, demanding what its creator, Grant Cardone, calls massive action.
Right.
But here's the crucial tension we really need to explore. Is this a roadmap to exponential success? Or is it just a recipe for spectacular burnout?
That is the perfect frame for our mission today. We're analyzing a truly comprehensive stack of sources here.
You have a lot of material.
It is. We have the foundational core philosophy, the 10X rule. We've got the nuts and bolts operational framework straight from the 10X Business Bootcamp. And this is absolutely vital for you, the listener. We have external commentary that critically reviews this high-octane methodology.
Yeah, in the context of what psychological drive and modern work culture. So we're not just reading a manual, we are stress testing it. We are trying to understand the actual mechanics of scaling one's life by 10 times, from setting these audacious goals to the real nitty-gritty of personal financial planning.
Exactly. And our core challenge, I think, is figuring out who this intense approach is genuinely suited for.
Right.
Because as the sources really highlight, just applying brute force effort to everything can be, well, strategically wasteful and just physically exhausting.
Yeah, you can't just throw hours at a problem and hope it solves itself.
You can't. So we need to find that balance. How do you integrate that incredible urgency without, succumbing to complete exhaustion?
So let's start at the very beginning, the philosophical bedrock. And this is fascinating to me because the 10X rule doesn't treat success as optional. It presents it as an ethical duty.
It absolutely does. Cardone frames success not as something you hope for, but as a moral imperative.
The moral imperative.
Yeah, it is an obligation and a responsibility. And the deeper insight here, the reason it's considered an ethical duty, is that achieving massive success gives you the resources, the platform, and the influence to solve bigger problems.
Oh, okay. So it's not just about getting rich for yourselves.
Not at all. It's about positively impacting your community and, maybe the world. It reframes failure not just as a personal setback, but as a failure to fulfill your potential usefulness to other people.
Wow. Okay, so if you're taking on this duty, this obligation, you have to shed that old scarcity mentality.
That's the critical mindset shift. The 10X philosophy operates purely on an abundance mentality.
So there's enough for everybody.
The sources stress there is no shortage of success. It is explicitly not a zero-sum game. The success of others doesn't diminish your potential at all.
The pie just gets bigger.
The pie is infinitely expandable, which means the market can sustain many, many winners, but only if they are all aiming for that 10X multiplier.
I think most people intellectually agree with that idea of abundance, but their actions betray them. And that leads directly to the system's core diagnostic. Why do most people fail?
They fail because they lie about effort.
They lie about it.
They don't lie maliciously, but they severely underestimate, often by a factor of 10, the actual time, energy, money, and sheer persistent effort that's required for success in any major endeavor.
So give me an example.
You think a business launch takes 3 months and, say, $10,000. The reality is often closer to 3 years and $100,000.
That is such a powerful insight because we are psychologically wired to be, I think, overly optimistic about how long things will take, and we underestimate all the things that can go wrong.
We lowball reality every single time. And the 10X multiplier is a systemic mechanism designed to counteract that deep-seated human tendency.
So it's a correction mechanism.
It is. You must set goals 10 times bigger than seems reasonable, and then you have to assume every project will demand 10 times the resources. Time, money, personnel you first calculated. It's not about being optimistic. It's about acknowledging your own deep-seated tendency to lowball reality and overcompensating for it before the disaster strikes.
And the sources drive this home with a pretty compelling personal case study, illustrating this exact cost of underestimation.
Yeah, Cardone shares his own experience with his first business venture. He started with the belief he could hit his success metrics and, match his previous income in a mere 3 months.
3 months, that's ambitious.
Wildly ambitious. The reality, as we often find, was brutally different. It took nearly 3 years. And that gap between the expectation of 3 months and the reality of 3 years, that's where despair and self-doubt and the urge to quit are born.
So when you hit that wall, and the 10X rule assumes you will hit a wall, whether it's the economy or competition or personal issues,
Yeah.
what's the mandate then? What do you do?
The rule is absolute. You never reduce the goal.
Yeah.
Never. Instead, you must multiply your action and efforts by 10. The rationale is that reducing the target, it just undermines motivation and fosters a debilitating culture of excuses.
Right. If the goal is the problem, you give yourself an out.
Exactly. If the goal remains fixed, the only variable you can possibly adjust is your level of action.
And this leads to that fierce, no excuses mentality. Excuses are redefined here, aren't they?
They really are. They are characterized as a cognitive revision of facts, something you use only to feel better about a lack of commitment or persistence.
So it's just a story you tell yourself.
It's just a story. The philosophy demands that the successful person must assume total control and responsibility for absolutely everything that happens, the good, the bad, the ugly, and refuse to play the victim.
Everything is on you.
You are responsible for your preparation, your effort, and your outcome. If you failed, you didn't take enough action, period. Full stop.
Okay, so if we accept this mindset, this radical responsibility, what does this massive effort actually look like day to day? Cardone breaks it down into 4 critical action levels.
Ah, yes, the famous 4 levels of action. They are: do nothing, retreat, take normal levels of action, and take massive action. And this framework really forces you to take a hard look at where you're actually spending your time.
And the sources point out something that I found really counterintuitive, that taking normal levels of action is actually the most dangerous state of all.
It's the most dangerous because it guarantees misery, uncertainty, and eventual failure.
How so?
Well, normal action yields average results, right? And in a 10x world, average results are just not enough to cover the massive challenges, the unexpected costs, or the relentless competition you will absolutely face.
So average is a failing grade.
Average is a failing grade. Normalcy is the great trap. It gives you just enough hope to keep trying, but it guarantees you'll never actually break through. Massive action, conversely, is simply the required minimum level of activity necessary to secure your future.
But this philosophy, it sounds inherently confrontational. The goal isn't just competition. It's outright market domination.
It is.
And I have to ask, domination sounds aggressive. What happens to the smaller players? And doesn't true domination inevitably attract intense competition rather than ward it off?
That's a critical question. And the 10x philosophy posits that true domination actually deters competition.
It pushes them away.
The goal is to achieve such a level of omnipresence and scale that your rivals recognize they just can't win, and that effectively provides you with immunity. The path to this involves applying the 10x rule so ruthlessly that you are willing to do what your competitors are just unwilling to do.
Okay, give me a concrete example of that application.
A classic maneuver they discuss is expanding your market presence or launching new products or, massively increasing your advertising when your competitors are contracting.
Like during a recession.
Exactly. During an economic downturn or a period of fear, while others pull back to save cash, the 10x practitioner multiplies their investment and action, essentially seizing market share when the price of attention is cheap.
So by the time the economy rebounds,
it's too late for them. The 10x company is already so entrenched the competitor just cannot afford to catch up.
that level of intensity requires a personal commitment that, it transcends a standard work ethic. Cardone calls it obsession, and he reframes it as a positive gift.
He insists on it. He says that obsession over success is necessary to dominate every single thought, interest, and consideration within your sector.
So it's not a 9-to-5 thing.
It's a 24/7 thing. If you are not obsessed, you are merely interested. And interest fades when that 3-month mark turns into 3 years. Obsession is the fuel that allows you to sustain the massive action required. He argues that if you spend your life making excuses for why you didn't get what you wanted, you were simply never obsessed enough to demand it.
Okay, let's move from the psychological fuel to the structural engineering required to handle this ambition. We need an execution framework. The 10X approach introduces something called the 3 lids, which are areas that cap potential growth.
Right, and these lids are basically self-assessment tools. They're designed to help you, the listener, locate your personal bottlenecks. You rate your confidence from 1 to 10 in these 3 distinct areas.
And the first one is the big one.
It's arguably the most powerful. It's the belief lid.
How do you practically measure belief? We talk about it conceptually all the time, but the sources cite belief, not just perseverance, as the true driver of innovation.
It's measured by your gut-level conviction when the situation looks impossible. The self-assessment questions are designed to challenge your internal resistance.
Like what?
For example, Do you genuinely believe you can grow revenue by 50% this year? Do you believe you can capture maximum market share in your geographical area?
Or the ultimate test.
The ultimate test. Do you have the conviction to invest heavily in your business despite the fact that current revenues are decreasing? If your gut screams no, your actions will never, ever reach 10x levels, regardless of how smart you are or what training you have.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The second lid is the operational effectiveness lid. This one is about the systems required to handle that exponential growth.
Right. This focuses on your capacity to create duplicable, standardized processes. Massive action requires repeatable systems, otherwise it's just chaos.
Right, you can't just run around like a crazy person.
No. It mandates modeling your top performers, who's the best at sales or marketing or operations in your company, and building your processes around what they do.
So the questions here are more practical.
Very practical. Can you identify and duplicate your top performers across the entire team? Can you align the whole team with goals that are 10x bigger than last year's goals? Can you grow revenue by 100% or more without everything immediately breaking down?
If you can't turn success into a repeatable machine, the 10x effort just creates chaos, which is a massive time suck.
Exactly. Chaos is the antithesis of scaling. And that leads directly to the final bottleneck, the influence lid, which touches on leadership.
And this distinguishes between people who dictate action and people who, inspire it.
Correct. Leaders influence, bosses merely dictate. Transformational growth requires influencing others, your teams, your clients, your partners, to buy into the 10x vision.
So how do you measure that?
The measure of this lid is twofold. Can you inspire your team to be on the same page and really commit to this level of action? And perhaps the most telling sign of success. Can you be entirely out of the business on vacation, focusing on a new project, and still see the net income grow?
If you have to be there for it to work.
Then your influence lid is capped. Your business is just a job.
Okay, so once we identify those bottlenecks, the next step is setting the targets themselves. The framework emphasizes setting goals across 3 specific interconnected areas. The PPF goals: personal, professional, and financial.
And the holistic nature of this is key. If you apply the 10x rule only to money, your life just breaks down.
You burn out your relationships.
Absolutely. So financial goals are the usual suspects. Hitting a massive total net worth target, generating a significant passive income stream, and aggressively tackling debt like paying off school loans or consumer debt.
With the personal goals, those are what often get sacrificed in standard hustle culture, and they are explicitly factored into the 10x equation here.
They have to be 10x goals, too. This includes audacious targets for travel, developing specific hobbies, hitting strict health metrics like running a marathon or achieving a specific body fat percentage.
And relationships, too.
Yes, and strengthening personal relationships. The 10x goal isn't just to have a relationship, it's to make it 10 times better than the average. This ensures the pursuit of massive action doesn't become a purely destructive force in your life.
And professional goals look inward. Learning a new skill that 10x's your value, achieving specific awards and recognition, and proactively attracting mentors.
Right, not just passively hoping a mentor appears, but creating a 10x strategy to connect with and be mentored by the absolute best in your field.
So it forces you to multiply your ambition in all areas, maintaining a balance even in the midst of the chaos of massive action.
That's the idea.
Now, let's tackle the key concept of growth management. The materials draw a really sharp distinction between merely achieving scale and achieving the highly desirable state of scaling. It sounds like semantics, but this is profoundly important for sustainability.
It is the difference between working in the business and working on the business. Let's use that analogy.
Right.
Scale, the less desirable state, is when you are the chief firefighter. The company is growing, sure, but 80% of your time is consumed managing and developing processes and teams just to keep up with that growth.
You're trapped, you're just reacting.
You are trapped reacting to the systems you created. You're constantly putting out fires.
So if I'm only scaling, I'm essentially the CEO of replication, not the chief firefighter of my own systems.
That is the key distinction. Scaling is the goal state where the company drives consistent growth and increasing margins, but 80% of your time is dedicated to replicating the optimal business model, finding new markets, new people to duplicate, new leverage points, and only 20% is spent managing the ongoing operations.
And that's where massive action becomes intelligent, high-leverage action.
That's the transition.
Okay, so how do they recommend achieving this leverage? The framework outlines a rapid scaling process consisting of the 3 Ps and the 3 Ms.
Right. Step 2 focuses on the 3 necessary focus areas simultaneously. If you neglect any one of these, you hit a massive operational bottleneck. They are promote, profit, and process.
Walk us through those 3 necessary pillars.
Promote is the obvious one. It's the massive action component applied to marketing and sales. It requires constantly seeking new leads, increasing your visibility, and dominating the conversation in your space.
But the mistake average people make is thinking promotion is enough.
It's never enough. If you promote massively without a good process, you just create a backlog of frustrated customers and overwhelmed staff. Process ensures that the success is duplicable and repeatable, allowing you to handle the massive volume generated by your promotion efforts.
And without profit, none of it is sustainable.
Right. Profit is the ultimate measure of effectiveness. You have to design your model to be profitable at every stage. A common failure in scaling is focusing solely on volume, that's promotion, and reducing your margins, which is profit, to the point where the business can't sustain the systems, the process necessary to continue growth.
All 3 have to work in concert.
They all have to operate at a 10x level of effectiveness.
And that leads directly into the continuous cycle for learning and mastery. The 3 M's, starting with model.
Model means identifying a specific ambitious target, a revenue milestone, a skill, a market position, and then identifying who has already achieved that result. You are not starting from scratch.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Do not reinvent the wheel. Massive action doesn't mean blindly experimenting. It means finding a proven blueprint and following it.
Which accelerates the learning curve for the next M, mimic.
Mimic is the phase of relentless application. You execute the work consistently, again and again, following that proven model precisely. This is the 10x effort applied to the work itself. It's the relentless activity required to embed the process into your routine, often before you fully understand why it works.
You just have to trust the process.
You do. And the final stage master provides the essential feedback loop.
Okay.
Once you achieve the success through consistent modeling and mimicking, you gain confidence. And crucially, mastery allows you to attain clarity on why it worked. You move from simply doing what the successful model dictates to understanding the underlying principles.
And that clarity lets you innovate on the model.
It allows you to then refine the model itself and start the cycle all over again at an even higher level of ambition.
Now let's apply this massive action framework to the most tangible part of the business, sales and finance. Cardone is a sales guru, so the materials are incredibly granular here. The sources list 64 specific traits of a great salesperson.
64.
What defines this 10x work ethic in sales?
The common denominator for all those traits is dedication bordering on the fanatical. Great salespeople are described as having the work ethic of an obsessed maniac.
An obsessed maniac.
Yeah, they treat every single interaction as a high-stakes event. They show up early, they stay late, and critically, they're not only great at starting things, generating leads, but they are unbelievable at finishing them.
That finishing detail is where the 10x philosophy really separates itself from standard sales training, I think. It means seeing the sale through to its conclusion regardless of initial resistance.
And this manifests most clearly in follow-up persistence. The follow-up regimen they advocate is a concrete, almost terrifying example of massive action.
What are we talking about here?
We're talking about a highly structured, long-term contact schedule, a 365-day follow-up plan designed to achieve complete market omnipresence with the prospect.
A 365-day follow-up plan sounds logistically nightmarish for a large client base. How is that level of detail even maintained?
It requires absolute reliance on process and automation for the organization, but the action itself must remain personal.
So it's not just spam emails.
No. They specify a variety of contact points, each one tailored to break through the prospect's defensive barriers. For example, day 2 is a handwritten letter, a physical item that cuts through all the email noise. Day 4 might be a personalized video message, which provides that human connection.
And the contact schedule is designed to hit the prospect from every angle. I noted that by day 30, they might get what's called a value drop.
Right, an article, a relevant case study, or a piece of insight completely unrelated to the sale itself, just to establish you as an expert and a resource.
It's persistent, non-sales focused contact.
Absolutely. You might have a check-in on day 90. A testimonial request on day 150, asking them to review your industry, not even your product yet, or a special holiday card on day 200, designed purely to stay top of mind.
And the most fascinating and perhaps most psychologically brilliant touch point is around day 240, the designated apology contact.
This is where massive action meets human strategy. The purpose of the apology isn't to say you're sorry for a mistake. It preempts the prospect's annoyance over the sheer volume of contact.
It's disarming.
It's incredibly charming and disarming. The implied message is, I'm sorry if I've been too persistent, but I'm so convinced of the value I can bring you, I refuse to let you make the mistake of choosing someone else. It reinforces that relentless commitment to value, not just pressure.
That level of discipline means the mindset traits have to be equally aggressive. Great salespeople are inspired by failure. They don't quit. They see failure as the cost of tuition.
Exactly. They are immune to negativity and they never, ever lower their targets. And they grasp the fundamental truth of commerce. Until the close takes place, no value has been exchanged. They are willing to persist and insist in the close, which is another massive action. They build value. They don't discount the price. Discounting is a retreat, a 1x move.
This feeds directly into the larger sales strategy. The focus on acquisition first, even defining customer satisfaction as potentially the wrong target.
That is a highly controversial but deeply 10x concept.
I can imagine.
Focusing too much on customer satisfaction early on, to the detriment of volume, slows your growth and sacrifices market dominance. The priority has to be a massive acquisition. First, get the customers in the door, and then over-deliver on expectations to ensure their longevity.
You can't satisfy a customer you haven't acquired.
You can't.
When facing resistance, the sources mention anticipating objections. They fall into 5 categories. We don't have the explicit names, but what type of hurdles does this framework suggest a salesperson must anticipate?
These 5 categories are essentially mental buckets for organizing common resistance, which allows the salesperson to systematize their response.
So they're prepared.
They're always prepared. They generally cover price and money objections. It's too expensive. Time and urgency objections. I need to think about it. Need or value objections. I don't see the value here. Trust objections. Why you? Why your company? And finally, competition or source objections. I'm happy with my current provider.
So by anticipating those 5 core types of resistance,
the salesperson can prepare their 10x level response, ensuring no prospect falls through the cracks due to a lack of preparation on their part.
Shifting gears now to personal finance. How does a 10x rule address wealth creation? It provides a very clear methodology for financial independence, the 40% rule.
And like everything else in the 10x world, it starts with ruthless tracking. You must list all your income streams, gross monthly, investment, any additional flows, and then detail every single expense category: taxes, rent or mortgage, autos, insurance, utilities, food, gas, everything.
You need the complete, unflinching picture.
Yes, to calculate your baseline. Then you apply this aggressive formula. The 40% rule mandates that your necessary income must be calculated so that your total monthly expenses only comprise 60% of that total income.
Leaving a target savings and investment rate of 40%.
40%. The calculation is straightforward. Take your total monthly expenses and divide them by 0.60 to find the income needed.
But the psychological difficulty of this must be immense.
It is, because it forces income expansion, not just cutting expenses. Most people look at their budget and try to cut $200 in lattes or subscriptions.
Right.
The 10x rule says your expenses are $6,000 a month. You need to earn $10,000 a month minimum to sustain the proper margin for growth.
It immediately reveals the gap between your current earnings and the level of income required for aggressive financial security.
It is a mechanism to force massive action in revenue generation. The sources contrast this with the lower middle class, which often focuses intensely on lowering debt.
Which seems responsible.
And it is responsible, but the 10x mindset argues you must focus on maximizing income streams first, because the ultimate goal is unlimited income, not merely zero expenses. The focus is on finding ways to earn $100,000 more, not just saving $1,000 on your utility bill.
And a major component of this wealth creation strategy is real estate investment. Why does Cardone view real estate as superior to many other investment vehicles?
It boils down to 4 specific advantages, providing a unique stacking of financial benefits. First, cash flow, offering consistent passive income, typically monthly, which creates immediate financial stability.
Okay.
Second, appreciation, the historical increase in property value over time, providing wealth growth even if you do nothing but hold the asset.
And the third and fourth are really about financial engineering, right?
Precisely. Third is leverage using other people's money, or OPM, through financing to control a large appreciating asset with a relatively small down payment.
So you control $1 million building with, what, $200,000?
Something like that, yes. And the appreciation is based on the full million. And finally, tax benefits deductions for interest, property taxes, and depreciation, which can significantly lower your taxable income.
So what's the strategic approach? It's not about quick flips, which often attract average action.
No, it demands adopting a long-term strategy. The focus has to be on positive cash flow and value appreciation over a decade or more, moving away from seeking short-term gains. Furthermore, it emphasizes strategic portfolio diversification, spreading your risk by investing in different property types, like multifamily, commercial, residential, and in different geographical locations.
Even with this framework, the sources offer valuable risk mitigation lessons drawn directly from Cardone's own experience, particularly during the 2008 financial crisis.
He was very vocal about facing challenges due to being over-leveraged during that period, and the hard-learned lesson was twofold. The absolute necessity of maintaining adequate cash reserves to cover unexpected vacancies, maintenance, or economic stress periods.
Rainy day fund.
A very big rainy day fund. And the need to avoid excessive over-leveraging in the first place, ensuring responsible financing so that economic swings don't force you to liquidate your assets at a loss. Massive action doesn't mean financially reckless action.
Okay, we thoroughly charted the architecture of ambition required by the 10X rule. Now we have to shift to the essential critique, because this intense, relentless action, it sounds suspiciously like the toxic productivity that is crushing modern workers.
Right.
Is the 10X rule asking us to redefine health, or is this just a way to romanticize overwork?
That's the intellectual friction we absolutely must address. External experts argue that this intensely one-dimensional focus on massive action aligns almost perfectly with the modern definition of hustle culture.
And the data supporting the critique of toxic productivity is truly compelling. It should make any learner pause before diving headfirst into this philosophy.
It's a crisis. Surveys show that well over 50% of employees and executives are reporting serious fatigue and mental health issues directly attributable to stress and overwork. 70% of C-level executives, the very people who should be operating at 10X, were considering quitting for a job that offered better well-being support. The pressure is just unsustainable for most people over a long period.
And the science confirms the futility of simply adding more hours. While increased hours initially provide a boost, productivity drops off a cliff after working 55 hours per week.
Once you push past that threshold, the diminishing returns accelerate dramatically. Working over 60 hours per week actually doubles the risk of burnout compared to a standard 40-hour week.
It's just not sustainable.
It's not. Hustle culture, by definition, encourages ignoring the body's need for downtime, sleep, and recovery. The World Health Organization has linked this chronic overwork directly to increased risks of cardiovascular disease, stress, depression, and anxiety.
And the fundamental downside is the complete erosion of that personal goals section we just discussed.
Yeah.
This mentality doesn't allow for personal time, genuine hobbies, or true disconnection. We see reports of high achievers who lose all their interests outside of work. They actively push family and friends away because their work schedule completely dominates their life.
And this is why the critique becomes neurologically precise, helping us determine the proper application of the 10X rule for you, the individual learner. The utility of the rule, according to this analysis, depends entirely on your dopamine typology.
Dopamine typology, that's fascinating. If the 10X rule isn't universally applicable, how does it target a specific type of brain chemistry?
Think of it using this metaphor. The 10X rule is highly motivational for individuals with a low dopamine tone.
Okay, what does that mean?
These are people who feel stuck, who procrastinate frequently, or who feel mentally numb and suffer from inertia. They are the stalled car that needs a tow truck, a massive, aggressive force to get moving.
Oh, okay.
For this group, the demand for volume and urgency provides the necessary psychological jolt to break that stasis. Volume of action is the clarity they need to start making decisions and feel momentum.
So if you're overwhelmed and doing nothing, the demand for massive action is a psychological reset button. But it completely misaligns for the high-drive, strategic individual who is already moving at 100 miles per hour.
Precisely. For the high-performing strategic individual, the 10X rule is critiqued because it lacks the necessary nuance. It operates under the dangerous assumption that more effort automatically equals more results.
Which ignores the foundational Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule.
Exactly. The 80-20 principle reminds us that 80% of valuable results often come from 20% of strategic, high-leverage effort. If you're already effective, throwing 10x more brute force at low-leverage activities will just lead to the exhaustion and burnout we just documented.
It's all gas, no steering wheel.
It's fuel without steering. The philosophy offers no guidance on what to strategically cut, delegate, or eliminate, assuming you should simply do more of everything.
So the final conclusion on application is,
If you are currently low-tone and passive, you should absolutely read Cardone to escape passivity. Use the massive action to create momentum. But if you are high drive and strategic, you must seek strategic models to multiply precision, focusing on that 20% of high leverage work, because biology dictates that simply working 80 hours a week will eventually render you ineffective.
this blending of psychological insight with practical execution brings us back to the sheer logistics of applying this intense philosophy, even in a controlled learning environment like the 10x Business Bootcamp. Even when you commit to being obsessed, structure is essential to harness that energy.
And the bootcamp materials themselves emphasize a variety of prerequisites necessary to successfully absorb and implement the content, and they're all related to minimizing low-leverage distractions.
So we're talking about massive action applied to distraction management.
Exactly. Attendees are advised to resist the urge to take excessive notes, which can distract them from the core message and focus instead on capturing the big takeaways, the 80-20 of the session content.
The environment must be secured.
Right. That means keeping phones on Do Not Disturb, turning off email notifications, and critically, ensuring their workspace is tidy, less clutter, more clarity.
And for those learning from home,
they even advise setting up a self-entertaining play area for children, ensuring the commitment to learning remains primary and uninterrupted during session time.
there's also the focus on physical readiness. This is the flip side of the burnout coin. If you are going to take massive action, you have to fuel and care for the machine.
It's non-negotiable readiness. It means getting restful, sleep-producing evening alcohol consumption, which disrupts deep sleep cycles. It means eating healthy, staying relentlessly hydrated, and maintaining adequate caffeine levels, ensuring mental sharpness is constant.
And finally, that hyper-specific piece of virtual etiquette, which I think perfectly encapsulates the demand for clarity and responsibility.
The cardinal rule of entering a virtual room: the very first thing you should not do is unmute yourself.
Seems minor, but it's not.
It's not minor at all. It's a massive action applied to courtesy and focus. Even the quietest sounds, a chair squeak, a whisper, can be picked up by microphones, disrupting the attention and blocking out important content for everyone else. It's an example of how 10x discipline must extend to eliminating those low-leverage interruptions.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive looking at a philosophy that demands exponential goals and massive action, framed as an ethical duty because of the impact success allows you to have.
And we've charted the comprehensive architecture of that ambition, from identifying the 3 lids that cap your growth belief, operational effectiveness, and influence, to the highly detailed execution frameworks like the 3 Ps of promote, profit, and process, and the 3 Ms of model, mimic, and master.
We saw how this manifests in aggressive strategies,
Yeah.
from the demanding work ethic shown in the 365-day sales plan to concrete financial planning like the aggressive 40% rule.
We did.
The core takeaway for me is that the 10x rule is a powerful psychological tool designed to overcome a pervasive, fundamental human error, underestimating the required effort by 10 times.
Right.
Cardone's philosophy correctly identifies that failure often stems from the cowardice of lowering the target rather than the courage of multiplying the action.
However, its longevity and its strategic value hinge entirely on whether you, the individual, know your own psychology. While the mindset is required to start, especially for low dopamine individuals who need that jolt relying solely on brute force, leads directly to toxic productivity and burnout.
Especially for those high-drive strategic individuals.
Yes. To truly harness this power, you must incorporate a mechanism for identifying high-leverage actions, using the 3 Ps and 3 Ms process for strategic precision, rather than relying purely on time worked.
That's the balance.
Yeah.
The mindset is required to start, but the strategy is required to sustain.
Indeed. The 10x approach states that success requires taking actions all the way to conclusion, committing to every necessary effort without giving up. But given the scientific evidence that productivity and wellness collapse dramatically after 55 hours of work, this raises a really important question for you, the learner. How do successful individuals truly reconcile the obligation to take massive, often overwhelming action with the equally critical strategic need to choose when to consciously stop one action to declare it concluded in order to start a higher leverage one? The work must conclude, but which work provides the 10x result? That is the strategic dilemma.